Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the guest of honor.
On November 10th, 1775, a Corps of Marines was created by a resolution of the Continental Congress. Since that date, many thousand men have borne the name Marine. In memory of them, it is fitting that we, who are Marines, should commemorate the birthday of our Corps by calling to mind the glories of its long and illustrious history.
So on that note, it's definitely my honor and privilege to introduce our guest of honor tonight, Mr. P.T. Brent.
Marines. Marines. I noticed that detachment, I think it's something to do with Marine League, 363 is here. I'd like to ask you, Marines from 363, to look into my eyes. In fact, everyone, look into my eyes. I have a message. Happy birthday to the most sharply disciplined and aggressive fighting force in the world. One of these famous Marines here, Chief Warrant Officer Carl Vincente, Chief Warrant Officer 3, introduced me to the Topology Battalion, Company I, and he also told me that I was going to come talk at the birthday ball, I better have a couple good sea stories. Is that right? Okay. So, let's see. Does anybody here, maybe Sergeant Major Cece, what's the definition of a good sea story?
Anything you tell, Mr. Brent.
Thank you. And, well, the chaplain's here. I'm not sure he'd like it, but I understand it has nothing, you don't let reality get in the way. So, I also want to give a short shout out to Captain Dane Gavitt, the one who read the birthday message. Is he here? Okay. One of the best readings ever.
Thank you, sir.
The 13th Combat I'd be proud of you. But did you know in 1921, when he wrote that message, the rumors that Master Sergeant Thomason was there as his aide? Those are exaggerated. That's bad scuttlebutt, because I know I was there. Now, what you don't know, Dane, is that in 1925, only 4 years later, that was only supposed to be like a birthday card. 4 years later, it evolved into these great, spectacular balls with everybody in black tie and all dressed up. And General Lejeune didn't know that we'd be there and that we'd be accompanied by arguably the most charming and beautiful women on planet Earth. I was told that I also should have, my first sea story, and the sea stories are all, they're from a time machine. And the first one goes back to 1966. About a month ago, I was at Golden Gate Cemetery in San Francisco, and I was at Admiral Chester Nimitz's grave. And there's a little unknown story about this extraordinary admiral. When he died in February of '66, he went up to heaven. You know, is the Navy listening here? Okay. He went up to heaven, and he gets by the Marine Sentry, and he gets to meet St. Peter. And St. Peter says, "Wow, we're really happy. You're an extraordinary, one of the most brilliant strategists in the war, and we're really happy to have you here." And Admiral says, "Well, yes, but I have one small request." And St. Peter says, what is that, Chester? And the Admiral says, "Well, where am I going in heaven? It's a long time. I want to make sure I'm not around in a section with none of those fancy pants Marines." St. Peter says, "Well, that's unusual. Why would you say that?" He says, "Well, I know they're the world's best warriors, and they won the war for me in the Pacific, but let me tell you, they have got an ego and an arrogance and a hubris second to none." So St. Peter said, "Fortunately, there's none in the section you're going to." So the Admiral gets in his blue and gold golf cart with 5 shiny stars on it. He goes off, and about the third day, he's cruising around heaven. Things are going well at that point. And then he gets to an intersection of Notre Dame Avenue and Bonsai Road. And he sees this gentleman up on like a 7-foot marble cube. This guy's firing off orders. Parade dress, dress right dress, left oblique, right oblique. He's firing all these orders, and he watches them for about an hour, gets all steamed, and he goes right back to St. Peter and says, "St. Peter, I can't believe that you lied to me. And he says, what's the trouble, Chester? And the Admiral says, well, I was back there at, on that big post out there at on Notre Dame Avenue, and I noticed this huge man, about 7 feet tall, with a red stripe down his trousers, and he's firing off all these commands. And St. Peter, believe me, I know a Marine when I see one. St. Peter smiles and he says, you know, Admiral, that's not a Marine. That's God. You see, Chester, God always wished he'd been a Marine. Next service. Okay, so sea story number 2 has a little more validity. The only one way to go. Sea story number 2 starts off in 1900. A gentleman in County Donegal, Ireland. His name is Patrick Mansfield, and he marries a lady named Josephine O'Brien, and they moved to Brooklyn, New York, start a small business, have a family. They had a young boy named Michael Mansfield, and when Michael turned 4, his mother died. So the father was in an awkward situation. He sent young Michael all the way out to Great Falls, Montana, to be raised by distant relatives. Michael goes out there, and things don't go well. He gets almost no education. He runs away from home chronically. Finally, he was about 9 or 10. They lock him in the state orphanage. Well, when he's 14, and one of his escapes, he found the Navy recruiter who was kind of flexible. At 14, he joins the U.S. Navy because World War I had just broken out. And he goes on a couple of convoys. And when he, on the second convoy, they finally figure out he's 14, and they throw him out of the Navy. So he goes home, waits a year or 2, and he joins the U.S. Army. Maybe we have some Army guys here. Then, yeah, Army guys don't do cars, do they? So, joins the U.S. Army, serves honorably, serves honorably, and then he comes home, discharged, and then, this is a special day, 99 years ago this week, young Michael sees the light, the great white light. And I'm sure many people here have also seen that same light. On 1920, 10 November, young Michael joins the Marine Corps. They ship him off, he's a China Marine, he fights in the Philippine insurrection, finally comes home, solid young man. He gets honorably discharged, comes back there to Montana. Things are still bad. So he gets a job in the copper mines as a mucker. That's with an M. Okay. And I don't know, but do you know what a mucker does? Anybody? How about you, Master Sergeant?
We muck.
Well, I'm not sure, but I don't think I want that job. So during 8 years as a mucker, he meets a beautiful woman named Maureen, who's a high school teacher, and start a 70-year-long marriage. And she's a high school teacher, works on his studies, all his grammar school, his high school. Before you know it, he's in the University of Montana, and he graduates. Tries to get a school teaching job, didn't work, so he went right back, got a master's degree, and became a professor at the University of Montana. And by this time, he's really become quite the sharp guy. And so after a year or 2, he runs as a representative for the House of Congress, or House of Representatives. And he loses, but in the ineluctable Marine he is, 2 years later, comes back and wins. And he serves 10 years in Congress. Followed by 24 more years, he gets elected to the Senate from Montana for 24 more years. And he set some historical moments. He's the first person to pass a bill for equal rights. And then right around that same time, Harry Truman, several other people tried this stunt too, Harry Truman was interested in dissolving the Marine Corps. Well, Senator Mansfield and a guy named Paul Douglas got together, another Marine veteran, and they created the Douglas-Mansfield Act, which guaranteed a seat on the Joint Chief of Staffs for the Commandant, and 3 divisions and 3 air wings for the Marines in perpetuity. So much for Harry. So, then he tries to retire, but President Carter, President Reagan sent him to Japan as ambassador for 12 years. And to this day, is considered the best ambassador we ever sent there. He set a record doing peace with China, Japan. The Prime Minister of Tokyo, when he was leaving, said, he's a giant walking amongst us. They gave him the highest award you can, the Order of the Rising Sun as an award in Japan. They built a statue for him, and even offered him a tomb when he passed away. They treasured it. So he comes home and tries to retire. And the White House immediately sends him on more special missions. Finally, at the age of 96, he's an extraordinary man, does retire. His wife passed away that year. And 2 years later, Senator Mike Mansfield dies. Do you know where you find his grave? Well, the White House wanted to put him up there on, you won't find it at the VIP Hill with the eternal flame, and you won't find it in Japan. And the University of Montana, the Mansfield Library wanted to put a tomb there for him. You won't find any of those places. There's a small obscure place in Arlington, Section 2, grave 4969, where Commandant Jim Jones and most of the U.S. Senate had a ceremony placing him in that gravesite. And this part gets me a little bit. He had a simple white standard plaque, just like every other, most of the people there at Arlington. Does anybody know what it says in that plaque? This man was in the Army, Navy, Senate, Ambassador. He had every title there was.
Private USMC.
Say that again.
Private USMC.
Stand up. So a person says, Michael Joseph Manfield, Private USMC, see me later. Sit down. Well, you know, I think this whole thing should be called Once a Marine. Something special. You know, I've had a few titles too, and I treasure one title more than any others. When I was on the board of the Marine Corps Museum for about 10 years, anybody, if you haven't been there, it should be on your bucket list. Joe, Kurt, I want you to make sure you make that museum, okay? So then, General Ron Christmas is the one that built that, right after he retired. And General Christmas told me that whenever a new recruit goes to OCS or Parris Island, the only boot camp, he said there's a pair of invisible hands that open up your chest cavity and put a small brand in there where you get an eagle, globe, and anchor on your heart. And I think that might be true. Maybe that's the reason I went off to faraway places with strange names like Djibouti, Kandahar, Fallujah, Ramadi, and wrote the stories. And I saw our Marines out there, and I have to tell you, our Marine Corps today is the best ever, far better than when I was in. I wasn't sure I wore the same uniform or same fabric. Our Marines today are terrific, and I saw a lot of young Marines, and some didn't come home. Some of these Marines, I kept thinking when I would see these Marines, you know, the rifle, the pack, they're just as heavy, maybe heavier. The heat, the cold, the mud, it's all still there. But they're still the same kind of Marines we've always had. Underneath these young faces flows the same blood that was sacrificed at Bella Woods, sands of Eagle and Tarawa, the frozen hills of Korea. It's the same outfit. The United States Marine Corps.
Hooray!
I can't resist this. A toast to 244 years of rapid stop and root to Marines. Thinking about all the politically incorrect remarks I'm not going to make now.
Hey, sir, just wanted to present to you a gift on behalf of Company I. We appreciate you coming out. It was completely our honor to be our guest of honor. So, this says Patrick P.T. Brent from the Marines of Company I, Marine Cryptologic Support Battalion. Happy 245th birthday.
I'm not sure any outfit should put a club in the hands of an Irishman, but I'll accept it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony. Please enjoy your evening, Semper Fidelis, and happy birthday, Marines!